Okay, this is EDUC 338 practicum class and schedule. And we have 2 more weeks before the final. So, and today, and Timmy's presenter of the chapter 13 and 14. And next week in Brianna, you will present the chapter 15 and 16. And EFE report and verification is due on next, Thursday and April 14th. And practice two and practice session paper is due on April 21st. So I will explain one more time for this assignment before we dismiss the class. All right. Timmy, can you share the screen for your presentation?
Yes, I can.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
So
Right.
for chapter 13, I had developmentally appropriate learning environments for infants. Understanding the nature of learning. Emotions play an important role in learning. Stress causes chemical changes in the brain that will destroy brain cells and cause problems when learning. Before children acquire language, they have already learned something about the world. They just wait for words to name those concepts. Understanding sensory motor intelligence. Infants are born with no initial ability to think, according to Piaget. This makes them construct their own intelligence. The sensory motor period is the first stage of cognition in infants and toddlers. This occurs from birth to age 2. The 4 substages of sensory motor learning. The first substage, babies begin by using simple reflexes to take in information and act on the world right after birth. In the second substage, infants gain a measure of control over their bodies, which gives them the ability to combine their behaviors. In the third substage, after 4 months, infants take a more active interest in the world around them. And for the final substage, babies enter this stage around 8 months. For the first time, they demonstrate intentional behavior. They begin to think, what will happen if I do this? For language development, babies are born with a reflex to cry and can communicate different sounds for different needs. Within a month or 2, they make cooing sounds. In late infancy, babies begin to produce 2-syllable sounds. Expressive language is language produced by the child. Receptive language is language understood by the child. The most positive parenting practices are giving children choices and asking children about things, listening to children and responding to their communication, high rates of verbal approval and few prohibitions, and lots of just talking using a wide vocabulary. There are 10 principles of sensory motor development. The first principle, relationships come first. Caregivers provide social, emotional security and attachment relationships. Second, learning comes through interaction. Caregivers recognize that the basis for cognitive development is interaction with objects and people. Third is learning is sensory motor. Caregivers realize physical play as part of cognitive development. The fourth is learning is playful. Joyful and spontaneous play helps with infant learning. Games such as peekaboo and patty cake have great value because of its interaction, language, and participation. The fifth is learning involves repetition. 5 routines that provide repeated learning opportunities are hellos and goodbyes, diapering, eating, sleeping, and getting dressed. The sixth principle is learning follows a sequence. Babies do what they can when they are ready, and they should not be put into places or things that they cannot assume themselves. The seventh is learning is unique to the learner. Individualizing the learning situation for each baby is matchmaking, which can only be done when adults properly observe the infant's interest, behavior, and pace. The eighth is infants take the lead. Caregivers know to follow the lead of infants and do not disrupt their exploration and play interests. For the ninth principle, caregivers provide the world. Adults are responsible for providing a safe and interesting world for infants to discover. 8 experiences to introduce to infants are playing with toys, imitating and pretending, stories and books, sensory motor art experiences, tasting and preparing food, sand and water explorations, music and movement, and outdoor experiences. The last principle is learning demands communication. Infants want to share their experience with adults after making discoveries. Much of the sharing is nonverbal, which includes smiles, pointing, holding toys out to caregivers. Developmentally appropriate strategies for adults, facilitating cognitive growth in infants. Caregivers create the physical environment for exploration. Caregivers create the social emotional environment for exploration. Caregivers create the cognitive match, and caregivers observe throughout the day, making brief notes as babies explore on their own. Nurturing language development, adults speak directly with babies regularly during every encounter. They recognize that language is taught as conversation. Adults reinforce infants' first cooing and babbling sounds. With infants who have begun to babble, adults occasionally simplify speech. Adults sing and recite rhymes to infants, and literacy begins at birth. Okay, here are the 4 review questions. Should I
Okay.
read them?
Oh, yeah, I got it. And can you move on the next chapter?
Okay. For chapter 4, developmentally appropriate learning environments for toddlers. For toddler language development, the first real words appear at the beginning of toddlerhood. The first words may be a sound combination for toddlers or something they are trying to communicate to adults. The second year is a critical period for language development. Dr. Burton White on toddler education, his findings merit serious consideration for caregivers wanting to give the best experience for toddlers. He pinpoints the abilities related to intellectual competence, which are good language development, ability to notice small details, using resources effectively, anticipating consequences, and carrying out complicated activities. The principles for teaching toddlers, the first is environment is everything. The physical arrangement of play spaces make it easy for adults to be available to toddlers, but also giving them the freedom to explore on their own. The second curriculum is exploration of materials. Teachers play a role in selecting items that are not simple to cause toddlers to use interest quickly or too difficult to frustrate them. The third, toddlers initiate. Teachers reinforce toddlers in their learning to learn strategies, the most important lesson to be taught. The fourth, adults observe. Observing initially is to learn the toddler's level of ability and interest. Observing later is to see how the child uses the materials given in a response. Effective scaffolding for principle 5 are joint problem solving, intersubjectivity, warm and response emotional tones of interaction, structuring the environment so that the demands are at appropriate challenging levels, and promoting self-regulation. The final principle is adults play as partners. Partners use the skill of observation and scaffolding to help toddlers see additional play activities, possibilities, materials and activities for toddler learning. First, the creative corner. Toddlers enjoy these materials to express their creativity, which include fat, crayons, finger paint, Play-Doh. Table toy area that are appropriate for toddlers' hands are large Legos, cubes for stacking, popsicle sticks, and small table toys. For construction area, giant Legos, boxes of various sizes, and props of animals, cards, or people figures. Imitating and pretend play. Toddlers need a clearly recognized house area, so this includes a small mop and a broom, table and two small chairs, a stove, stroller, and dolls that include boy and girl dolls. For the book area, homemade picture books, photo album books, or simple picture books. So there's also 10 principles for teaching language to toddlers. The first is language teachers respond to toddler communication. The second, language teachers model speech. The third, language teachers simplify utterances. The fourth, language teachers expand on toddler efforts. The fifth, language teachers link words with actions and experiences. The sixth, language teachers correct indirectly. For the seventh, language teachers encourage speech. For the eighth principle, language teachers support dual language learners. After language teachers sing, recite, and play games. For the final principle, language teachers read books. And here are the review questions.
All right, thank you so much, Timis. Yeah, I already gave you the one review question for each. So please provide your response from review question and with your peer evaluation score. Thank you so much, Timis. Yeah, I surely review chapter 13 and 14 and highlight important key concept in here. Okay. Chapter 13 mainly deal with the developmentally appropriate learning environment for the infant. So their emotions and their stress and their sensory motor period. So there are several keywords. According to the Piaget, and it is a sensory motor stage. So it is egocentrism. It is a part of their symbolic thinking. So and they they are organizing their cognition system through the schema and assimilation and accommodation and equilibrium and 3 stages, right? So they are learning language through the and babbling and one word sentence, mama, tata, pupu, and pipi. So just like that, and then they try to express their willings through the squeaking and making sound or crying and social smiles. And also they start to say one word sentence. Timmy's presented 4 stages, 4 sub-stages of sensory motor learning. And stage 1, and baby using simple reflex and motor reflex and the Babinski reflex and the sucking reflex and a lot of reflex and around this stage. And substage 2, and they control their bodies. We already learned about their body and physical development, right? And their head control, and newborn baby cannot control their head, right? So the reason why we hold on newborn baby's head just like that. And then they are sitting up around the 6 months around, sitting up with a tripod position. And then they try to, and crawling and creeping. So use 2 arms and 2 legs and torso control. Around the 12 month, and they try to stand up with some furnitures and bathtub, and it is we call it is ambulation. After ambulation, and they walk independently and try to walk around 14 month and 15 month, right? Okay, and substage 3, and after 4 months, and the infant take a more active interest in the world around them. So they are, creating their ego and the self-image. And last stage, substage 4, and babies entered the, around the 8-month-old and first time, and they try to demonstrate in the intentional behaviors. So I want this. So, and they like to, have a strong grip to, objection, right? And cooing and babbling and the express language. So it is a part of a, receptive language, a language understood by the child, right? Receptive language. There are several principles for the sensory motor development. And the principle 1 and relationship and come first, and learning come through the interaction, and principle 2. And principle 3, and learning is a sensory motor. So, and they are learning based on their 5 senses, and watching, smelling, tasting, hearing, and touch, right? So all learning occurs from their 5 senses, right? And also physical bond and emotional bond with their major caregiver, right? Principle 4 is learning is and fun and playful, right? And they are learning from the play. So our textbook provide examples, and peekaboo and patty cake, and they need some interaction with the others, especially significant others. So peekaboo and patty cake. So it is a part of object permanence. They believe that the object and they are watching is existing. So it is object permanence. So the reason why they like a peekaboo. So when my son and Jinha was 1 or 2-year-old, I think so. So we played peekaboo. So and hide and seek. Hey Jinha, time to hide. And I told him. So he hide his eyes only. All right, I'm ready. So they cannot see. And they are believing, they're believing that the watching object and the authentic object they can see is existing, right? And sensory motor. All right, and this is chapter 13, and chapter 14 mainly deal with developmental learning environment for the toddlers, not infant. In toddler stage, they have a strong interest to learn and play. So they use some language, and development is really rapid, and also they anticipate cause and effect, try to, and time to develop cause and effect equation. And there are several principles for the teaching toddlers, and according to the textbook, principle 1 is environment. Well-prepared environment and well-organized environment is the most critical part for their learning during the toddler. And the curriculum is exploration of materials. So teachers play a role, selection some items that are not too simple, and so this causes toddlers to lose their interest quickly. So they have a short attention span and time. So the reason why we create curriculum based on their interest. And principle 3, and toddlers initiate, and time to learn, and learning strategies. And the principle 4, and adult observe. And principle 5, adult scaffolding. Scaffolding is the word from the Vygotsky and cognitive developmentalist. Actually, scaffolder is the term using in the construction. And if there is a building and scaffolders surround the building and supporting, and some workers, they are, working on the scaffolders. So scaffolder in the, in terms of, an educational term knowledge is the same, ways. And supporting system for the, student learning and encouraging them. And also sometimes we are, preparing reward, sometimes punishment too. So it is a part of, Vygotsky's cognitive development theory. And principle 1 is adult as a play partner, right? So we have a positive attention and approvals of active discovery. And also we can support toddlers to see additional play and possibilities. There are 4 types of play: solitary play and play alone, and onlooker and or parallel play. And they try to imitate other, other peers play. And then, but they are, staying in the same space. However, no interaction occurred. And the third types of a play is associate play. They can share some toys, but not working together. And most of the best part of play is a cooperative play. So they are working together and playing together and reviewing together and discussion together, right? So, and according to the chapter 14 and the materials and activities for the toddlers learning, and the creative area, and table toy area, and construction area, and Legos and blocks, right? Imitating and pretend play and role play, and the stove and the bed and dolls and area, and book area, and we can prepare, photo album and simple picture books, right? So it is the one I want to type. Okay, stop to share. And let's move on assessment class. And I am sharing screen for the assessment class. Yeah, we have 2 more weeks before the final exam. So today, and Brianna, you will present the chapter 8. And Dominic, you present the chapter 9. And Timish, you are the presenter of chapter 10. And Destiny, you are chapter 11 presenter. All right. So, and then I will post your Blackboard. And, it is time to review your grade. So, and next week, and I will update all your current grade. So some of you submitted the all required, test and written assignment, but some students still missed the, written assignment and, test too. So it is very, very high time to prepare and make up missed part. And personally, I have a schedule to visit Korea. So when I finish it this semester and early May, and I submit your final letter grade to the Office of Registry, and then I will leave and Dover and heading to Korea. And my father, and he is in intensive care unit right now. So he is 87 for this year. and he got a serious brain cells, and he is in coma right now. So, and the time to prepare his end during this summer. So, and I will visit Korea and stay with my father for his final stage. So that means, and you must submit required assignment and required a test and on a due date. So limited DSU email access in Korea, because when I try to connect the DSU email and the banner in Korea, so they blocked from the a foreign account. So I have a limited access to the DSU account and email and banner and Blackboard. So I will ask the IT desk, but I cannot guarantee and all response is possible from the DSU email. So the reason why I ask you to submit your assignment and test and as soon as possible if you missed. All right. And let's move on the presentation. And Brianna, can you share the screen for the chapter 8 and the teacher designed assessment? And then Dominic, please prepare your chapter 9. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Brianna.
So my chapter was chapter 8, which is teacher designed assessment strategies. The chapter objectives are: 1, describe why teacher design assessments and tests are used. 2, understand the relationship between teacher designed assessments and curriculum and instruction. 3, design assessments for preschool and primary grade students. 4, understand the process of mastery learning. 5, write an instructional or behavioral objective. And 6, develop formative and summative tests and learning, enrichment, and corrective activities for learning objectives. So when assessing and evaluating children from birth through primary grades, other measures are generally more important. So the types of assessment used: 1 is the paper and pencil tests. They are adapted to the child's limited reading and writing skills. The teacher would introduce the assessment page with the children before asking them to complete it independently. The guidelines for written assessments are: this child must have visual cues to be able to respond. Teachers should give verbal examples to help the child to understand the task. Teachers should use clear, concise written directions. Teachers should read and discuss the written instructions to ensure that students understand what is required. Developing quality teacher design assessments. So some concrete tasks for preschool are: the assessment task is at the same level of difficulty as the learning activities designed. You need to have a variety of options or concrete materials so that the assessment task can be administered multiple times. When possible, administer tasks for a number of learning objectives, have materials for a number of different tasks organized and available for students. For primary grade children, test items should match the child's reading level, and you should always try to use the lowest possible reading level you can so all students are able to understand it. Directions should be clear, even if they will be read by the teacher. You need to ensure that response items for multiple choice type assessments have one correct answer. Response options for multiple choice assessments are the same length and are brief. You need to keep the list of items brief for matching exercises, so you can't have like 20 different items. The list of items for matching exercises is homogeneous, so they all need to be the same. The length of blanks is the same for completion test items, and there should only be one blank for each completion item. So how are tests designed and used? So they are designed to closely match the curriculum objectives and content, measure the student's ability to benefit from classroom instruction, measure the student's accomplishment and learning needs in relation to specific classroom objectives. And they are also used for placement and diagnosis, formative testing, and summative testing. So placement versus diagnostic tests. Placement test determines the instructional group for the students. It also determines what the student already knows and is ready to learn. Diagnostic test determines students' weaknesses that need to be corrected. So here are the 5 steps in test design according to Bloom's model of mastery. Number 1 is determining instructional objectives. Number 2 is constructing a table of specifications. Number 3 is designing formative and summative evaluation. Number 4 is designing learning experience. And number 5 is designing correctives and enrichment activities. So formative and summative tests are used to assess mastery of a lesson. Formative tests are given periodically to monitor student progress. They also identify which objectives have been mastered and which need additional work. They also provide feedback and are not used for grading purposes. Summative tests, on the other hand, are the final test given at the completion of a unit. They are usually given after instruction and formative testing reveal that the material has been mastered. Designing formative and summative assessments. So they are about the same, but they do have different purposes I listed before. These assessments are derived from the table of specifications. They write items to measure the student's achievement at the levels of Bloom's taxonomy as described in the table of specifications. Setting a standard for mastery. So to set a standard, you need to state what will be expected of the students to demonstrate that they have learned the objective. The teacher, the school district, or state may set the level of accomplishment. So that is just the minimum standard. They need to be able to demonstrate mastery of the objective so that test items will reflect on the level of understanding. And analysis of learning objectives to determine the level of understanding is done by constructing a table of specifications. So some advantages of teacher design assessments are they can be designed for a particular class's abilities. So you can make them harder or easier depending on what your class requires. They can also be improved whenever that's needed. Some disadvantages are that a lot of teachers aren't trained to understand the purpose of the test or the levels that are tested. They also may lack training in test design, which affects the understanding of commercial tests and the skills needed to construct tests. Teachers need to be aware of the various levels of cognitive understanding. And the most obvious one is developing a good classroom test is very time consuming. So assessment items are things that the teacher must develop that reflect the table of specifications described in the objectives to be testing. Test length should determine how many test items or tasks will be included. They need to also reach a balance between the number of items needed to demonstrate understanding that will not overwork the child's ability to attend to the task, and they should not exceed the time normally needed to complete classroom activities, so they shouldn't extend more than about 30 to 40 minutes. Assembly, so how the test is put together. They need to be able to construct enough items so that formative and summative tests can be put together at the same time. For formative evaluation, the test should have enough items to obtain the feedback needed. And both formative and summative assessments should be equivalent in level of understanding required. Formative evaluation checks on a student's progress to determine whether the student needs additional experiences. Correctives are designed to be used to approach the objective differently from the original instruction. And if the students' responses on the evaluation indicate masteries, the teacher can provide enrichment on a higher level than required for mastery. And so here are my questions. Number 1, what are some steps for creating quality tests for primary grade children? What are the 5 steps in test design? What is the purpose of teacher designed assessments? And what is one advantage and one disadvantage of teacher designed assessments?
Okay, hold on. And I will give you the question 1 and question 1 and what are some steps for the creating quality test for the primary grade children. So I will give you this question and Destiny. And question 2, and what are the 5 steps in test design? And I will give you this question. And Dominic, question 2. And Cardin and Kajen, and question 3. What is the purpose of the teacher designed assessment? And Timish, and question 4. And what is one advantage and one disadvantage of the teacher designed assessment? All right, thank you.
I had chapter 9, performance-based strategies. So first it started off with authentic learning and authentic assessment. Authentic or performance assessment measures what children can do or apply in addition to what they know. And authentic learning is based on construction of and application of knowledge in meaningful context and focuses on higher order thinking. Performance-based strategies and how standards relate to them. So a positive alternative to standardized tests to measure children's development and learning. It's linked directly to authentic learning. And it's also frequently called authentic assessment or authentic performance assessment. Standards are compatible with mastery, learning, and state standards. It also measures a young child's progress as well as achievement towards mastery of state and national standards. Some purposes for performance-based assessment is that they're integrally related to instruction. Evaluation strategies are adapted to children's individual differences, needs, and abilities, including ELLs and children with disabilities. To know how to design appropriate instruction-related assessment tools, interpret assessment results, and plan for further instruction. Performance-based assessments interpret performance assessment results for parents and administrators, and they are directly related to the child's development and achievement because they measure a child's performance of a real or designed task relevant to the desired learning. So some types of performance-based assessments. The first one are interviews. Unstructured interviews occurs when children are playing, working, or engaged in classroom activities. Structured interviews are pre-planned. They acquire specific understandings about the child. And diagnostic interviews determine the child's instructional needs and what kind of help the child needs. Contracts are planned between the teacher and a child for a specified period. They record their record of the child's progress. They state expectations and activities the child will complete. After the child has completed an activity, some type of checkoff system is used in the record, used to record the accomplishment, and they're used as a guide and recording system. Directed assessment are a specific task or assessment or assignment, Some examples are reading a story, showing children how a math problem is solved, and discussing thinking and steps on a science inquiry. Games are used to understand children's progress with a skill or a concept and thinking abilities. They're used for systematic observation of an entire class. And board games can be adapted to many content areas like math, social studies, and language arts. A project is an activity conducted by an individual or a group that is lengthier than an activity conducted during a single class period. It's also a product of some type, and English language learners may be able to engage in projects that expand language as well as work with new concepts. Work samples are evidence of a child's understanding. They may include media such as photos and audio tapes as documentation of the learning process, and work samples are included in portfolio discussions with parents. Portfolios may contain examples of the student's work and any other material that demonstrates the student's performance. Performance information is stored and interpreted, and it's used for assessing and reporting to parents and administrators. The role of the teacher in performance assessment. There are 6 roles. The first one is to integrate instruction and assessment in planning and carrying out the program, choose or design the assessment processes, collect information by observing children, analyze the results for understanding the program and the children, apply what has been learned to planning and improving the program, and also communicate with parents about their children. The teacher's role in authentic assessment. Teacher provides meaningful learning experiences that children would not have otherwise experienced. Teacher empowers children to learn more independently and spontaneously. They pay attention to children's unique attributes, and they listen, diagnose, hypothesize, intervene, evaluate, reflect, and redesign. Classification and organization of performance assessments. There are unstructured performance assessments, which are part of regular classroom learning and can be spontaneous. Structured performance assessments are predetermined to include problem solving, synthesis, and analysis. They also must meet standards for reliability and validity required of standardized measurements. Direct performance measures require students to apply knowledge, and indirect performance measures determine students' knowledge. The role of observation. To ensure that a desired performance is observed and recorded, you must determine the purpose, focus, and method of documentation of the observation, analyze and reflect on the information to determine the child's progress, needs, and next steps. Observation is the foundation of performance assessment. They're used with interviews and direct assessments. Observation enables teachers to understand child's thinking and knowledge and gains, and checklist rating scales and other types of observation. Other types to document observations require observation to understand child's performance. Documentation and project. Documentation is a method of recording a child's progress or accomplishment. What documents learning, observation, checklists, rating scales, rubrics, assessments related to mastery learning. Documentation follows progress of activities. It helps understand children's interests, thinking, and problem solving. It also displays a sharing of work via video, photos on documentation panels, or other displays is a culminating activity. The roles of rubrics. Rubrics are essential for performance assessment because they focus on the degree to which a developmental milestone or skill has been achieved. And rubrics provide a framework to assess processes of learning that focus on child-initiated accomplishments. Some advantages of using performance-based assessment. They're conducted in the context of what children are experiencing. Performance-based assessments are ongoing. They provide the teacher with tools to observe and document the child's progress. They provide a variety of means for the child to demonstrate competence, and they provide meaningful information to parents. Some disadvantages of using performance-based assessments is that it can be time-consuming, which requires extensive involvement of the teacher. They can be more complex than more traditional assessments. Some difficulty in incorporating the evaluation of progress as well as achievement. There are concerns about validity and reliability, and parents need to be knowledgeable of comfortable with the assessment problem. Developing quality performance assessments. They're based assessments on instructional goals, use fully developed task descriptions, review assessment criteria against instructional goals, score systematically and recheck scoring strategies periodically, compare rubric and other performance scoring with other informational assessments when appropriate, use more than one assessment in making important decisions. Also conduct assessments that are consistent for all students to eliminate bias. My review question: explain the difference between authentic learning and authentic assessment. Name 3 purposes for performance-based assessment. What are the ways to classify and organize performance assessment? What is a directed assignment, and give an example, and also provide 2 advantages and disadvantages to using performance-based assessment.
Authentic learning and authentic assessment. Authentic or performance assessment measures what children can do or what children can apply, in addition to what they know. All right. Authentic learning refers to construction of application of a knowledge and meaningful context, and focuses on higher order thinking. So it's authentic learning. So standard based assessment and performance based assessment. A standardized test make a mean score and average score for the standard. And however, performance based assessment measures young children's progress as well as achievement toward the mastery of a state and national standard, right? And major purposes of performance-based assessment is directly relate to the children's development and achievement, and integral and relate to the instruction. And evaluation strategies are adapted to children's individual differences, some need and some deeper, differentiation of abilities, and including an ELL and any other student with disabilities. Major purpose of a performance-based assessment is to know and how to design appropriate instruction and interpret performance assessment results for the parents and administrators. Okay, and types of performance-based assessment and interviews: unstructured interview and structured interview and diagnostic interview and open-ended questions, right? And unstructured interview occurs when children are playing and walking and engage in classroom activity in class settings. And structured interview is a pre-planned and well-organized interview protocols and specific understanding about the child. At last, and diagnostic interview, mainly focusing on determine the children's instruction needs and what kind of help the child needs. So it is one I want to highlight. Okay, directed assignment, you can use the specific task and assignment using the reading books and story and showing and how math problem solved and discuss thinking and several steps for the science inquiry. And work samples and evidence of children's understanding. And so it is just like your assignment and diary and portfolio and work samples. And you also include the mass media and photos and audio tapes and any documentation of learning processes. And you can include portfolio discussion with the parents. There are several projects to conduct, your assessment. And project is an activity conducted by individual or group that is, lengthier than activity conducted during the single class period. So you can use a product of some types, and ELL may be able to engage the project that expand the language as well as work with the new concepts, okay, and project. So project is very, very familiar with the, John Dewey's project approach in the classroom, right? And portfolios, this is another type of, assessment and performance-based information and archive stored and your interpretation you can add in student portfolios, and also may contain examples of a student work sample and any other materials to verify they successfully reach their learning goal, right? Also, sometimes we can use a portfolio for the PTA meeting or teacher parents conference and the individual conference or discussion. You can use the portfolio assessment too. Okay, what is a teacher's role in authentic assessment? Teacher provide meaningful learning experience so that children would not have otherwise experience. And also teacher empower children and students to learn more independently and spontaneously, right? And pay attention to children's unique attribute, unique talent, and the different types of learning progress. And listen, diagnosis, and hypothesize and intervene and evaluate and reflect and redesign. So it is the textbook provide this teacher's role. All right, and unstructured performance and structured performance assessment, and Dominic explained role of observation, and she explained it enoughly. And observation is a foundation to performance assessment. So with the interview and direct assignment, and observation enable teachers to understand their thinking and differentiate learning styles and knowledge in games, and checklist that you can use, and rating scales you can use, and any other Likert scales and point and checklist you can use. Documentation is another hot keyword for the this chapter. Documentation is a method of recording student progress and accomplishment. Documentation, and you can use your data from your observation and your data from checklist rating scales, rubrics, any other assessment tools you can use. Okay, rubrics are essential for the performance, assessment, because rubrics are focusing on the degree to which developmental milestone or sometimes skills have been achieved, right? And rubric provide the framework to access process for their learning, and so that we are focusing on student initiated accomplishment, right? There are several advantages when you use a performance-based assessment, and I highlight just the 2 and 3. And advantages of performance-based assessment is ongoing, provide meaningful information for their parents, and provide the teachers with the tools and observe documentation of the children's progress. Disadvantages using performance-based assessment, and time-consuming is the same as teacher designed the test, right? And assessment can be more complex than more traditional assessment, right? And performance-based test is something more complex than the traditional assessment. Traditional assessment provide a simple and clear guideline, but performance-based assessment is more difficult to incorporate with the student evaluation and progress, as well as their achievement, right? And several concerns about validity and reliability issue. Performance-based tests cannot guarantee the validity and reliability for their assessment tools, right? Okay. It is the one I want to highlight from Dominic, presentation. Okay, and so this is practice 2 practice session. When you log in Blackboard, please click the community here, and you will find the praxis test resource page here, right at the bottom of communities here, and you will find the early childhood left part of here, early childhood. So this folder is empty, but you will find the praxis tutoring session recordings here, and you will find the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 videos, right? 5 videos. And when you click the praxis 5024 video series here, you will find the 1 and 2, 3, 4 videos. So you can download, or you just click the video and watch the video here. And Brianna, my former student, and create this video. So please watch this video, and you will find the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 video here. So you're watching this video, and then you watch this video series here. So it is a 9-minute long. This one is about PPT files, not video clip.
Childhood development and learning is broken.
So this one, video 2, 3, 4 videos. So practice series video, and you watching this video, and then you create here this video. And the title of assignment is practice 2, a practice session paper. So your name and cover page, DSU, and classroom, class information here. and class and instructor and due date and your contact info. In the intro part, introduction part, a general statement and overview about praxis 2 test. What is a praxis 2 test? Why teacher candidate need to take this test, and describe and how and why, how to prepare and complete it, and the contents and any other information and general statement. It's a 1 page long here. In the body part, you summarize the video clip. Watch the video clip, video 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And 6 video clip you can choose. And what is this video? And the video topic you describe, and your summary and findings, you take a note here. And then in the conclusion part, and you describe about your findings. And summary of this assignment and feedback and your suggestions with your own word, and subjectivity. So, and I will update this assignment on the Dropbox and Blackboard. Timmy's, can you hear me? And we checked the remaining schedule. And next week, and we have another online class on Tuesday at 2 o'clock. And Brianna, can you hear me? And Brianna,
Yes, I can.
Yeah, you are the presenter of chapter 15 and 16 for the practicum class, okay?
Okay.
Okay, also an EFP report and due on next Thursday, and EFP verification form, please upload on your Dropbox folder or send it by email to me. And practice 2 practice session paper is due on April 21st. And then we have a short review. I think we finished the whole class in the 15th week. So I will, give you the chance to review your grade when I finish it. So I will call the meeting at 16th week to review your grade and, individually. And as for assessment class, and next week and 12th, next Tuesday, Timish, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you are the presenter of chapter 10. And Destiny, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you are the presenter of chapter 11 on the April 19th. And then we have a final exam. So I will post this final exam and the 15th week. I will give you the 2 weeks for the complete test. So I received the email from the Miss Alexis Williams, and she said and our spring semester will be complete at the end of April 29th. April 29th is last day for this semester. So that means you have 2 more weeks before the final. 2 more weeks before the final. So it is really high time to review your progress and assessment, and your assignment you submitted, and which assignments you missed, and please double check. And next week I will update the all grade and then show you your possible final letter grade. Yeah, questions?